Jamal is Jamal Maxey moved to Berlin about 6 years ago to teach and has organised over 100 in-person, hybrid and online events in the startup sector over this period. Almost a year ago, he studied on a VC programme at the London Business School, strengthening his ability to make investor introductions and coach startups on their investor pitches. He lives between Germany, India and the UK and is open to new hybrid events, partnerships, marketing and even remote work. Also, special thanks to Elena Suchu, our strategic partner, for supporting us with investor community relationships and startup engagement. The Food and Beverage Pitchland series is committed to supporting food and beverage startups. We host a varied and innovative early stage and mature startups who are raising investment and delivering them the following values: so exposure, support, and valuable connections. We're building an inclusive and supportive pitch event community, creating invaluable pitching opportunities for startups, as well as engaging, informative and networking experience for event observers. We would also like to thank our other supporting companies, Mirage.ai and Pagoda Projects, for supporting with branding, marketing and interns, and a special thanks also to each of the companies providing us with panelists today. So before we dive into the pitches, I'll take a moment to outline the event structure and introduce our investor panel and the startups. We've got 4 startups today, and in the main part of the event, the startups present 5 minutes each with an extra 15 minutes for Q&A. At the end, there'll be an event summary, announcements and invitation to join the Zoom networking groups. A few guidelines and opportunities for the audience participation will now be pasted into the chat, I think. And on screen is the event support team who will be messaging you privately on Zoom to create an accurate record of attendance. But for any matchmaking or technical issues, please message Jamal. So before we get started, I'll first introduce the investor panelists this evening. First up, we've got David Nothman, who's a board chair at 3 Bar Biologics, angel investor, Next Gen Ag mentor, executive ambassador for Agriculture Future of America, Farm Foundation Roundtable Fellow. So he's an accomplished global C-suite executive with over 20 years of substantial profit and loss, direct responsibility for over $125 million businesses and people leadership of over 100 staff. Experience with companies ranging from startups like Unfold, Terramera, Arbogen, to multinationals like Valent USA, Battelle, and Monsanto. He's launched over 65 international career products spanning from 4 continents and a wide range of ag inputs and services. He's got over 20 years board leadership roles. We're thrilled that David has moved from a regular and active audience member to becoming one of our investor panelists. Next up, we have Dr. Dalal Al-Gawas, PhD. She's the founder and agri-food consultant of SWAPAC, former deal leader of Glass Wall Syndicate Early Stage, former director of Big Idea Ventures. She's a food biotechnology expert and into accelerator and VC. She specializes in the future food technologies that combines research, commercialization, capital, and partnership. She's an international thought leader in the food technology space. She's attended or taken part in over 100 conferences, TV, podcasts, roundtables, industry reports, startup competitions, with a technical specialism in food safety, biotechnology, diagnostics, clinical research, and public health. Dalal is a lecturer at the University of Hong Kong, teaching courses on future foods for the MSc Food Industry, Management and Marketing degree, and the executive program for the Hong Kong University Business School. She has worked with over 100 global technology startups focused on food and agri-tech, next generation foods, alternative protein, cellular agriculture, halal guidelines to cultivated meat, sustainability, smart kitchen equipment, medtech, and software. Third up, we've got Dr. Elif Gungur Rise, food tech academic at Istanbul Aral University, entrepreneur, food hack ambassador for Istanbul, mentor at the Founder Institute, member of VC Lab, and advisor for Arkvan Capital. So Dr. Elif is a food technology and entrepreneurship expert at Istanbul Aral University, specializing in sustainable food innovations and bridging academia with industry. As the ambassador of Food Hack Istanbul, she empowers food entrepreneurs and fosters collaboration to drive sustainability and innovation in the food and agriculture sectors. A thought leader and mentor, Dr. Rice combines academic research with practical solutions, supporting startups and advancing market-ready innovations in the global food ecosystem. And then last up, we have Michael Cohen, managing partner at R Ventures, SFGN consumer brand head, entrepreneur, and 3 times founder and VC investor. Michael is a managing partner of R Ventures, a venture studio and startup advisory firm headquartered in Dublin, Ireland, specializing in the global food and beverage sector. He has over 25 years corporate experience working at Diageo, PepsiCo, Red Bull, and McDonald's. He has also founded and exited 3 food and beverage businesses, so he's been in the trenches before raising capital and challenging established brands. We're fortunate to have such an experienced and versatile VC return to our investor panel. So now to introduce the actual startups this evening. So our first one up is Miles Comfort Foods, a clean premium comfort food brand elevating the landscape of frozen foods through the marriage of quality and clean convenience that the modern day consumer is seeking in grocery. This will be presented by Miles Powell, founder and CEO. He's raising $800,000 on a convertible note. It's got $150,000 remaining, $4.5 million cap, 25% discount, and 5% interest rate. Second up, we have Gaia.ai, IT-driven precision farming automation platform designed to make controlled environment agriculture scalable, modular, and cost-effective for mass adoption. This will be presented by Janelle Abdi, founder and CTO. The deal summary is raising $350,000 in exchange for equity and/or a safe valuation cap, 2 million validation cap, and 18 to 20 months runway. Third up, we have the Good Wild, innovative and upgraded products, fermented and sprouted pulses that respect the limited resources of planet Earth while securing the need for increasing supplies of good and protein-rich food. This will be presented by Zeynep Yalchin, I hope I pronounced that right, Brand and Communications Manager. And then fourth up, we have, or the last up, we have Ami Proteins, develops novel proteins that answer the needs of consumers and industry. The first application is sweet protein inspired by nature and built with biology through a natural fermentation process. And this will be presented by Ilan Samesh. So let's get started. So our first startup this evening is Miles Comfort Foods. So over to you, Miles. I'll just give you a little bit of intro to Miles himself first. So he's got 9 years experience in CPG. He's generated over $1 million in product revenue, has raised over $1.5 million in funding, and has an extensive database and advisors. So yes, over to you now, Miles.
Thank you, Zacha. And Jamal, thank you for also putting on this event. It is a pleasure to meet everyone. I am going to go ahead and share screen. And then we're going to blow this bigger. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, we should be able to see that. Well, yeah, so like I said, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Miles. I am the co-founder and CEO of Miles Comfort Foods, and we are real food that is frozen, not frozen food. And I'd like to start out with why I'm even here and what got us started. And so for me, growing up, food and the dinner table was not just a place in the house. I mean, quite frankly, it was everything. The moments that we shared together, driven by the food that we ate, really molded me into the person that I became as I got older. And as I got older and I started grocery shopping on my own, I just noticed that there was a lack of what I call real food in grocery stores. Food that, while convenient, would not really taste like home. There was always a sacrifice there. This was such a big deal for me that I decided to leave behind my engineering career behind in order to build something of meaning. And that led to me actually being featured on the Food Network on a show called America's Best Cook back in 2013. And I left that show and I felt as though I had a new purpose and a new calling and a true passion. And so for the next 6 years after that, I did everything that I could to become an expert in consumer packaged goods, equipped with an MBA, and through just a ton of network development, product testing. Over the course of that time, I developed an expertise in everything from cash flow management, margin analysis, biz development, And throughout that journey, through the missteps, what we call industry traps and everything else, really helped me accelerate our business once we launched. And that brings us to today. We launched in May of 2023, and over the course of about 18 months, we've got product featured in some of the biggest retailers in the States, including Whole Foods, Target, Giant, all the way from Pennsylvania to California. And in that short time frame, we did actually close to $400,000 in revenue with over 750 retail partner locations across the country. Now, the reason that we've seen such significant traction so quickly and so early is that we're going after a very, very big problem that doesn't seem to be going away. And with our food system here in the States, unfortunately, 75% of foods in grocery are made with ultra-processed ingredients. And consumers are becoming even more aware to the dangers behind that because it leads to a dramatic rise in both physical and mental health problems. And when you think about that consumer, right? Nowadays, everyone is flipping over and looking at that ingredient panel when they're shopping. And so they're all looking forward to products that they can actually trust. They want recognizable ingredients. They don't want foreign objects that they know they're going to consume. And, as I mentioned earlier, we're all tired of the sacrifice that typically has come with convenience, especially in the frozen food aisle. And finally, we all want our food to taste like home, even though we're preparing it in a very quick fashion. And that's exactly where we come in here at Miles Comfort Foods, because we have developed a line of clean, but also premium macaroni and cheese as our first item. It's that marriage of quality and convenience that consumers need. And when we say clean label, we mean no additives, no fillers. The consumer knows exactly what they're consuming. And it's because of this approach, we actually have 24 grams of protein in the product. And this is the most in our category by far. And in 4 minutes, consumers are actually eating something that tastes like they made it from scratch. Now, in our frozen food category, there are other brands that do macaroni and cheese. But as I mentioned, we have the most protein. We're actually one of the lowest sodium options, which is another concern for consumers, free from seed oils, or one of the only minority-owned brands in our category as well. Now, frozen food itself, huge market, and it continues to grow, I want to say at 9% year over year, $31 billion industry. We always see it accelerate because the need for convenience continues to grow. And speaking of growth, over the next couple of years, as we continue to expand distribution to additional retail locations, our primary driver is increasing our velocities, right? It's how much we're selling in each store through our marketing initiatives that we've taken on since day one. And really, mac and cheese is just the beginning. We're looking at launching additional SKUs over the next couple of years, including shrimp and grits, shepherd's pie, and then a meatball and mashed potato combination. And these are all driven by, our goal is to become a comfort food, entire category of comfort food in frozen, which has not been seen yet. We want the shopper, when they're going down the aisle, to be actually excited and feel like they're looking forward to a meal that we provide that they can prepare in less than 5 minutes. And even beyond the States, I had the fortunate opportunity to work with a college group here, and we all examined some global expansion opportunities. And there's 3 regions in particular that are of high interest. That would be Japan, UAE, and UK. Across the board, we're seeing a high demand for these convenient, high-protein meals. The category continues to grow. And in fact, in the Japanese market, we're actually working on a partnership with a vending machine company called Yokai, where they will be buying our product in bulk and then supplying it through their vending machines through technology that actually allows it to heat up and be ready right on site. And so, this ties into our investment opportunity where we see a very strong desire for an item like ours for both expats and folks who maybe want to explore a different type of cuisine that is a staple here in the States. Over the next few years, we do have a pretty aggressive projection schedule. We intend to be profitable later this year and really not only tackle into retail, but also food service, which is that bulk offering that I mentioned. And we are doing this all with a healthy gross margin, which is a necessary, right, particularly in our space. From a team standpoint, it's myself, co-founder and CEO. We also have an operations director, Jana. She's our co-founder. Many years of experience in building out operations teams, and just a guru when it comes to logistics, scheduling, and all that. Proud to say we have a number of investors already on our cap table, including A16Z, VIPC, Bronze Valley, and then Whole Foods is actually one of our investors as well. And on that investment front, we are on the brink of closing out our $900,000 convertible note round with $150,000 left. That's going to go towards continued distribution growth, team expansion, and marketing. And of course, I've got a full pro forma and things that I can share with anyone who is interested. We are looking to close this out within the next couple of months. And speaking of that, just real quick, want to touch on this. If you look at what's happening in food and bev, there's a number of companies that have been acquired recently for a pretty sizable amount in our space, including most recently Siete was bought out by PepsiCo for $1.2 billion. We're actually looking to follow suit with some of the smaller players over the next 6 to 7 years and looking at an acquisition of $250 million. So with that being said, I want to pause here and answer any questions that the panel may have. And I can keep the slideshow up as well if that's good.
Great. Thank you, Miles. Really interesting and great to hear someone doing, clean, healthier versions of comfort food. Great. Over to the panel. So, Dr. Dalal, would you like to start?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Miles, and congratulations for all your achievements on this project.
Thank
I have
you.
a couple of questions on the product. So I'm very curious, do you use the flash frozen method to be able to retain more nutrients? Could you tell me a bit more about your, let's say, freezing process?
Absolutely. So we do use a flash frozen process. Early on, we discovered that process is a very simplistic way to keep and lock in nutrients. If you look at what the industry has done historically is, they're adding in things that are, I'll call foreign, to increase the shelf life beyond a year. But we find that is completely unnecessary and bad for human health. And so we have a flash freezing process that is very efficient and helps lock in nutrients and saves shelf life.
Got it. And then my second question is on, let's say, the packaging and distribution. So are you situated close to the cities that you operate in, or are you using white label products? How does the operations look like so far?
Yeah, good question. So we are co-packing up in New York, and our distribution partners actually pick up directly from our co-packing facility. So we have right now, I would say, about 8 different facilities that currently house our product, but they're all picked up directly from us and shipped out.
Got it. And then my last question is on, because I can see you target very different retailers, from premium like Whole Foods and then more of the affordable ones like Target. So could you tell me a bit about, let's say, the SKUs that you have and those segmentations that you've divided it into?
Definitely. So right now we're actually leaning heavier into the more premium market. We are a higher price item. We're about $7.99 on the shelf, and we find that it's our primary audience shops at those places. And so that's our prime focus. There is another market that I didn't bring up throughout the slide. It's more of a newer development. We're doing very well on college campuses. We currently operate in about 7 of them, and they are actually selling more product per week than some of our retail partners. So that's something that we're starting to lean into a bit more. They flow through the same distribution channel, but it's a different audience. However, we've seen some great performance at these locations.
Yeah, just a last comment on the Yokai partnership. That's really exciting. I've seen some of it launch in Singapore recently with their, I think, ramen noodles vending machine. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that's going to turn out and what interesting products you'll create for localized markets.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dalal. Over to David next.
Sorry, just taking off mute. I want to echo the comments about really compelling deck, well thought out. I have one comment that I'll make to all the panelists, but you're first, so I'll make it to you. Please include slide numbers so I can reference them. Super easy to do and really helpful when giving some feedback. I'm going to shift gears a little and maybe ask some questions around expansion and growth strategy, because I think you've got growth strategy into the Western US, sort of that, and then you've also now introduced this idea of introducing globally. And I'd be curious, with the money that you're raising, do you think you can do both, or is one prioritized over the other?
Domestic is certainly prioritized because that's where we've seen all of our traction. We understand that international expansion is not overnight, so we're in the process now of just kind of laying the seeds and seeing what the opportunities present themselves with. So here domestically, we're taking the parentheses approach. We did some market research to see where this type of item would do well, and we discovered West Coast and East Coast are the best approaches, and then work your way sort of into the middle of the United States. But also being very particular about where we're selling into. Not every retailer is our best customer. So for instance, we're not entertaining a Walmart deal. We just don't have a product fit for that. Whereas a Whole Foods or a Gelson's or these natural retailers are more of a fit alongside with some of the college campuses that I mentioned as well. But yes, the international play we see as a major opportunity, but that is something that we just want to make sure that we fully understand what it's going to take to make that happen over the next few years prior to deploying any significant resources to that.
Very clear. Thanks for that distinction. And also on your product fit, like knowing it's a premium product, where's it going to fit geographically, where's it going to fit store-wise. Really appreciate that. And I'll talk a little bit or ask the question about international taste preferences, but I'm curious, as you move to the West, sort of skip over the middle of the US, what is it about that geography? Access to retail could be different. Tastes, what do you see as both some of the challenges and the opportunities in the West?
So yeah, when you look at the West, we call that the natural hub, right? It's where you see a lot more grocery chains that follow the Whole Foods approach. And actually, if you look at sales in that channel, the West Coast being between Seattle, San Francisco, and LA account for over half of the entire country. And so the opportunity is there. The challenge, of course, is that it's more of a crowded space. So for us to establish our base here in the East Coast, it's a tougher market, but it gives us a bit more credibility so that when we expand west, we have a little bit of brand awareness as we expand that way. But there's a lot higher sales opportunity out there than, let's say, the middle of the country.
So my last question, and then I'll go to let one of the other panelists ask, is really on the financial slide. I don't know if you want to pull it up or not, but I like the diversification, this idea. Anytime you can have, you've got retail and you've got food service, both. I was hoping to get to that a little sooner, but your story is very compelling. I'd be curious or encourage you maybe to talk not just about the top line, but the profitability by channel, right? By revenue source, and how maybe it's a smaller market, or what's the benefit, and some of the benefits of food service are very different than retail. It's not as volatile, and can drive top line while minimizing your COGS. So those would be some things that I might encourage you to do, or if you want to comment on them now, would be awesome.
You took the words right out of my mouth in terms of why we are doing this diversification, where we're looking at food service as almost like a contract play. A lot of the distribution partners work under contracts, where retail is based on fluctuating demand, right? It's typically more expensive to support retail than food service, and so by establishing that part of our portfolio, it actually provides that baseline revenue going forward. We're fortunate that we have a bulk product that is very popular in the space. And now we're seeing, especially in the university space. And so I personally think we're undervaluing, and from a revenue standpoint, how much that we can do over the next 5 to 6 years. Because my goal is to actually shift to a heavier food service portfolio than what's currently on our projection slide.
Yeah, I was mentally a little critical of that gap, and love that you want to drive that faster. So next panel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, David. On to Dr. Elif next.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Miles, for the great pitch. I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, how long is the shelf life?
1 year.
1 year, okay. So how do you balance consumer expectations for taste and nutrition value? Because as you say, you want to expand different geographies, and once you try to change the ingredients, price, everything changes. So how do you balance all of this?
So I'll tell you what our initial goal was. We were taste forward first, where we understood that our category was lacking in quality overall. And what we saw were these sort of some of the legacy companies starting to put nutritional claims that didn't quite make sense. And we looked at the labels and realized that it's not real nutrition. It's fortification. And so our approach was, let's make this as natural as possible. And because the natural approach, the taste came also naturally, but also the nutritional value came naturally. Our protein claim was not intentional, but it ended up being great, just because of virtue of using real ingredients. It allowed the consumer to see that there's actually high nutritional value with our product. And that's something that we're going to keep consistent through all our product lines, which is clean label, high in protein. And even as we expand to other avenues, we've got great production capacity with our co-packer, and we can entertain white label offerings outside of the States or even domestically too. We've had those conversations already. And but at the end of the day, they're all going to follow the same methodology of, hey, we're not introducing unpronounceable items to the product. We want to make sure that everything follows this natural path.
Thanks.
Thank you, Elif. And then on to finally Michael.
Hi, thanks, Sasha. Hi, Miles. Great presentation, very, very well presented. I've just got 3 questions from my point of view. The first one is, I may have missed it. What's the core demographic that you originally planned to sell to, and does it differ from who's actually buying it now?
Yep. So we find that initially we wanted to go after young professionals, right, in between ages 21 and 30, who are looking for something at working lunch or shortly after coming home from work. What we found is that there's a huge population of moms who understand that Kraft and players like Kraft are not good, but they're locked into the convenience, and they want something that they can actually feel better about serving their child. So we find that our original SKU, which is our home style, does really well in that demographic. Not to say that we are a kid brand, but we are an item that moms can feel comfortable providing their child with, and they also feel like they can eat themselves for a work lunch. The second audience, which is one that we didn't plan for, but is becoming more and more popular with our product line, I call them semi-fitness enthusiasts. It's folks who are active, so they're highly, highly sensitive to protein intake, and they've become bored of having to rely on, I say, baked chicken and protein shakes. They want indulgent items, and now that they can get a high protein density product that also tastes phenomenal, it's a win-win, and we're one of the only ones in the space that can provide that. That's a highly growing audience as consumers are becoming more and more aware of the importance of protein. So we're leaning heavier into that space than we initially thought, but I do see that there are going to be substantial returns with that.
Great. Thank you. Is that all your questions, Michael?
No, that was the first one. Sorry.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. Keep going.
That's fine. Just got two more quickly. So, you mentioned from a branding point of view, you stressed that you're not frozen food, that you're food that's frozen. So, I guess what's the consumer pain point that you're trying to solve there, given that you've made that statement?
Yep. So the pain point is that consumers have felt as though they've always had to sacrifice either quality and or nutritional value by shopping in the frozen food aisle. It's the aisle that people walk down. Unless you're buying frozen ice cream, you're thinking, okay, I have a need, and I have a need to have something that's ready and reliable on deck, but it's not a very proud purchase. And so, we're one of the brands that are changing how consumers are considering that category. If you look at what veggies did in frozen, right? Veggies were able to educate that group, folks who produce frozen veggies were able to educate consumers to tell them, hey, we understand that if you're buying a fresh veggie, you've got a handful of days to eat it before it spoils. and we're tossing it out, leading to a lot of food waste.
Gotcha.
However, frozen food and the veggie standpoint, all it's doing is locking in nutrients. We're not adding anything to it. So now the consumer can not have to worry about food waste or food prep, and they're still able to have something that's ready and available for a quick meal or a quick side. So our bridging the gap of convenience and quality in a market in today's day and age where convenience is not a want, it's a need. We're solving that problem for consumers.
Okay, thanks. And one, I'm conscious of time, so really important one for probably for most of the panel here is you launched in May 2023. You've got 300,000 revenue, locked away across 750 outlets.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's $33 a month per outlet is your turnover. Yeah. So what is your volume or your revenue that you need to do? So what's the ceiling to prove product market fit? What's the number in your head?
So it's based on velocity. So it's
Just
3
one
units.
number.
So you're looking at 50,000 a month in revenue. Sorry, 60,000 a month in revenue.
Per outlet.
No, total. So that's the 60,000 a month in revenue is our ideal velocity point for Whole Foods. That is sort of the ideal KPI for this company for this current phase.
Okay, great. Thanks, Miles. I think I've run out of time, so thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Michael. And thank you, Miles, for your brilliant presentation. So now on to our next startup pitching this evening. So I'd like to just introduce. So next up, we've got Gaia.ai. So this is the IT-driven precision farming automation platform designed to make controlled environment agriculture scalable, modular, and cost-effective for mass adoption. And this is presented by Janelle Abdel, founder and chief cultivator. Just a bit about Janelle. Janelle started coding at age 12, launched his first IaaS SaaS startup in I guess that's 19, I'm not quite sure, at age 14 from his bedroom. By 21, he became co-webmaster at HP, achieving a major milestone by bringing Arabic language support to the MEMA website. With hands-on experience in indoor farming and aquaponics, Janelle applied his IT expertise to agtech. He founded Gaia.ai to automate farming, improve crop yields, and simplify processes, reducing knowledge barriers. He's fully committed to Gaia.ai, and Janelle has bootstrapped the platform with his own time and savings, risking his stability for years to build a sustainable farming solution. So over to you, Janelle.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sasha, for introducing me. And hello, everyone. My name is Janelle, and I would like to share with you my journey in Gaia. So let's roll. So I moved from the Middle East to the cold Europe and wanted to grow leafy greens and vegetables that I love, but naturally they don't really grow in the cold climate here. So, like for example, Egyptian spinach, okra, Moroccan mint. I was also very curious about making fishes at home, like yearly, for Christmas. It could be great. So the challenges I faced during this journey highlighted the complexity of the indoor farming. I would like to introduce, along the thing, my friend Philip, he's been like a 20 years engineer and expert in precision farming, helping me with the engineering point of view for the system, as well as Adam Salah, a very good friend of mine. He's a businessman and he managed many companies with over 80 employees. So he gave me the business advices that we need along the way. I'm not sure. Do anyone here tried growing with hydroponics, aeroponics, or aquaponics? Okay, maybe hands up. Anyway, it's a very complicated system. It's supposed to help minimize resources and increase yields. But since it's a very sensitive, you need to have a constant monitoring, especially water monitoring, the quality of the water, maintaining the right balance of nutrition, ensuring that environmental conditions are optimal for the plants that we are growing. And it's very, very labor intense, and it requires constant attention into it. So, like, for example, like if we are growing with aeroponic high pressure, if there is an issue, clogging issue in a pipe or something, you could lose the crop within like almost 2 hours. So you must have a monitoring system to automate these. And that's our solution, which is a user-friendly grow management and automation system to ensure that the plants and the fishes get the optimal grow conditions. It's also 24/7 environmental monitoring using the sensors. We all the time check it up, what's going on. The user has a very nice interface with the alerting system. It's a data-driven. The user can make data-driven decisions to take based on the data that he collected from the grow. And Gaia consists of actually two parts. One part is the product, and our product, some of them are the sensor nodes or the actuator nodes, nutrition dosing node. All of our products are made of 97% off-the-shelf component. So we lower the price into the minimal, and we can reproduce this same hardware in any new continent that we will start to sell at. The product is based on a decentralized architecture, lowering our cloud costs, and it's very super and easy to scale up or scale down. Since it's a data-based solution, our core idea is that we also collect as much as data, diversified plant data, and prepare it for machine learning in the very near future. Our solution is also similar to Uber Revolution. So our approach is an IT-driven for scalable, modular, and cost-efficient to make it mass adoption. That would knock our competitors out. So for the market size, at the moment, it's around 11 billion if we calculate it only in the European region. We are focusing on home growers as well as mid-sized farms for the beginning, and we intend to convert seasonal farmers into the controlled environment farming using a guerrilla type of marketing. As for our competitor landscape, the current solutions, they either cost a fortune, they rely on selling expensive equipments, and some of them are not even retrofittable in existing greenhouses, which increases the cost. And well, it's also worth noting that some of our competitors got bankrupt by using a very bad business models. Best examples of them, not sure if you know, like SmartCast or Neatleaf. And our goal is to have the lowest entry onboarding for new customers, to make it as easy as possible and as scalable as possible. So we had a very simple strategy for the marketing. We had a very no marketing budget at all. All I did was making 2 posts on Reddit, introducing the system, and this gained us around 24 sign-ups for the pilot program. As for our business model, it's based on multidimensional revenue streams. Especially, we are speaking about data, mass data. So that would be the diversified farming data. That's our core goal, at least in the future. In the meantime, freemium model will scale the user adoption. The hardware will give us accessible snacks, and monthly subscription will sustain the revenue. We are asking for $350,000 in exchange for equity or SAFE. This will allow us to improve the product, improve the user experience, start hardware production, implement our go-to-market strategies, and as well as cover natural cost. With this budget, we can run for around 18 months. And one of the biggest goals will be also to gain market proof, as well as KPIs for the next round. Beyond financial returns, GAIA is also solving real world problems, like helping farmers to grow more with much less resources, reduce food waste, making agriculture much more resilient. So it's also suitable for impact investors. And thank you very much for your time, and I look very much forward for your feedback and questions.
Great. Thank you so much for your presentation. Right. This time, let's start with David.
Hi, Janelle. It's good to
Hi,
see
Dave.
you again. We had the opportunity to be on that same conference in Silicon Valley, as you know. But for the benefit of the audience here, as you know, I've done a lot in this space. The last company I was with was focused on controlled environment and seeds for vertical farms. So it's interesting to see folks continue to operate in this, and the problems are very evident to me within that model. It is interesting to me that you're looking at sort of smaller to mid-sized growers, which I do think has an opportunity, but it's also then penetration strategy becomes harder, right? In terms of getting your foot in the door. I'm going to maybe start with your business model, right? And freemium to converting to a software and the hardware. I'd love your thoughts on, I guess, do you need to, or why do you need to charge for the hardware versus maybe a more expensive software model, and getting them to adopt? Because some of that first hurdle is indeed the hardware cost. And if you own it versus them owning it, there's a trade-off there. Can you talk a little bit to that?
Yes. In regards to the hardware, at the very early stage, we didn't think even to sell the hardware itself. Like, we were thinking maybe the customers will make up or use some hardware from the market. But then we noticed that it's a bit hard, and not everyone is DIY. So it took us a bit longer time in order to make the perfect hardware that we can reproduce easily and to make it as cheap as possible. But we do, however, support external hardware. So if a user has sensors, or if they have microcontroller, we support almost most of the microcontrollers in the market. So they simply check out the steps, how to upload the firmware and how to use their own hardware if they already have one. One customer even had hardware from a competitor, and definitely we can give a support for that as long as they are using the right chip in that. So the idea was or is to lower the bottleneck, which is the hardware itself, and give the user as much as more options as possible. And since it's modular, so they don't really need to buy like all the sensors and really everything. They can start small. They can start even with a relay and humidity sensor at the very early stage. So we want to eliminate this bottleneck and to let the users right into the software side of the.
Yeah, I understand better now the why you got into the hardware piece because of the maybe inconsistency and whatnot. I guess I think the ability for you to utilize competitive hardware and still do the monitoring, your heart's in the monitoring. So having my coaching would be to have a close look at the profit margins on your hardware versus your software. And ultimately, if you can get out of the hardware and have somebody else do that, or still service.
We are hoping for the Chinese to replicate it. So
yeah, that's right. It'll be replicated. And just the other piece, and I'll turn it over, is at what point this sort of goes on Michael's question of the prior, but at what point are you comfortable? What's your penetration need to be in terms of number of farms to be profitable or at least break even?
Well, if we are looking thinking about the lowest possible, so do you mean like for the pre-seed stage or for a later
Just down the road? How, like, because right now you're in that penetration mode, and I think as an investor, I would want to understand, you're trying to get people to use it. What's that ramp up at $150,000 annually for the software? How many people do you need to have using the software for you to be break even?
Yeah. Well, I would say that even with 300, with 300 user, if 300 will be paying with monthly subscription, and they will buy the really minimal hardware possible. So the minimal revenue per the hardware, that would be around $150 per user. And minimal, if we're calculating around $12.50 a month as a minimal revenue for the SaaS side, that would be also $150 a year.
Right.
So it's around $300 per customer at least in the first year.
First year.
Yeah, so if we multiply that with 300 customers, that would be around $100,000 for the first year.
Right. And I think it's a little bit of my point is that may seem like sufficient, but for an investor, that's maybe not exciting enough.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm speaking really at the minimal, but like we are eyeing for 10,000 customer in the early stages, and that would translate into 3 million.
Yeah.
So
to get us to that path of from where you are to the 300 customers to the 10,000 customers, that would again sort of be my coaching is walk us through that timeline and the milestones that need to happen. Another panelist.
Right. Okay. Thank you, David. Over to Elif now.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you for the great pitch. My question is, what are the biggest barriers to adoption for farmers, and how do you plan to drive mass adoption beyond early adopters? Because it's very hard to convince for the mass adoption. So, what is your plan for convincing these customers?
So one idea is I call it a guerrilla type of a marketing. I dig down actually a 2 meter deep ground to build a greenhouse, and the idea would be to make a 24/7 live channel on YouTube, and that using this channel we will be sharing all the data that we are collecting, some insights about the plants, the environments, and so we are going to show them live the use case itself. And we are also gonna, using the same channel, we will teach them on how to make such a sustainable a greenhouse, or for the Northern Hemisphere, all year round greenhouse. And using that as a tool of marketing or as a tool to share knowledge, we simply showed the people how, or the farmers, how to do it. I mean, nowadays many farms who are using like the indoor farming, they are mostly coming from the beginning as so they are not traditional farmers. They probably just now starting a farm. Versus if we are targeting traditional farmers who might want to also to grow all year round, or they want to be more efficient. Or I mentioned it also, like for example, saffron. You in nature you only have it for 1 week flowering for only one time a year. But if you make it indoor, you can make it 3 times, 4 times a year. So if we showcase that to the farmers, then we can show how that works, and they will say, "Wow, we can make 4 times the same crop what we are doing now in only one." So they will see the benefits of that and the benefits of using Gaia as a system that they can rely on for monitoring and for learning from their own mistakes or from other farmers as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Elif. Then on to Michael.
Yeah, hi, Janelle. Thanks. I just want to carry on where David left off because I'm more commercially orientated. There's no doubt that you've demonstrated that you've got your product is fit for purpose, fit for market. So I guess I want to help you try to understand how you can sell it to investors based on market potential. And David was talking there about just the economics that you had on page, I think it was page 18. So I just want to quickly ask a few questions about that. Beg your pardon, it's business model, page 14. So just can you help me understand, unpack the 10,000 customers leading to, on average, 4 million revenue per year with this €150 or $150 a year subscription. So the 350,000 ask in the raise, is that to get to 10,000 or is that to get to 300 customers?
No, that's for getting like 300, 400 at the beginning. Actually, the very first 90 days, it will be only the pilot program for around 50, maximum 50 testers, where we will be testing the user experience and everything. And after that, we want to start the marketing and reach the first step milestone of around 400 customer.
Okay.
And then to make a raise for the seed round, and with that we want to reach beyond. So the 10,000 at the moment is not a target for the pre-seed itself.
Okay, so my advice then on that is just to make it a lot clearer for the audience or for the potential investor on your business model. Maybe show your ambition is to get to 10.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the raise is to get to 300, not to 10,000, because it's a little bit misleading in terms of that, or a bit confusing at least, rather than misleading. So just I think page 14 could be just redrawn, with a sort of a pre-step before the 10,000, which is the 300, with maybe an arrow saying, the funding's for this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had it more specifically mentioned at market size, I think, where, yeah, maybe not specifically the 300, but 50 test users at the
Yeah, so
beginning.
just revisit those two slides to make it really clear for people that don't know your business and business model that the raise is to get to this far, but your ambition is to go even further, to get to 10,000, etc.
Yeah.
And then the other question I had was just on your breakdown of the funding goal. Being a marketing guy, I kind of go straight towards the marketing spend. So you'll go to market strategies. So you're going to spend $70,000 on go to market strategies. Is that for one consultant, or have you got a plan for that? Or so again, because you said you did shoestring marketing, but then you've
Yeah.
got $70,000 for go to market strategy.
Yeah. For the marketing budget, some of it will be allocated in order to build the infrastructure itself for the live channel. So to build the greenhouse, the all year round greenhouse, the YouTube channel, as well as make paid advertisements, sales, so we can like connecting with retails, because the idea and the target for the beginning to have it at 10 retail hydroponic shops in Europe. At the moment, we have like 3 shops that are interested to put the product in their place, and we want to increase it. And yeah.
Yeah, so I think just to Elif's point before around attracting your base, your core audience of farmers, etc., show that marketing spend in the ask. And then the final one is a really positive one. I think your slide 16, your impact investment slide. I think if you started with that, you would really lock in your investor audience, because I think that's why you're doing this, right? I think it's a really powerful slide, and I probably wouldn't leave it to the very end. I would have that as an attention, grabber at the beginning about what your ambition is as a business.
Yes, I think I have to balance between also like sustainability and impact, and with the capitalistic system that we're living in. And we also have to think about the farmer, because if the farmer has to pay a lot, then probably the food prices will be a lot. So I think there is a delicate memory between.
But investors have conscience too. So I think that, for me, that would be a really powerful statement that would get the right investors into your business. Yeah, because they have a shared ambition, on food system and sustainability. So thank you. I'll pass it on to Dalal, I think.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, Dalal.
Okay, hopefully I have enough time. Thank you, Janelle, for your presentation and answering all the questions so far. I have a couple of questions on, I guess, the data governance. I know that, you're a techie guy and you're building all of the systems in-house. So like with regards to the cloud that you're using, are you using AWS or Google Cloud? And how do you protect all of the data?
Yeah, I think it was mentioned that I started my first startup when I was like 13, 14. And that was actually a cloud hosting service. So it's using my own, at the moment, it's using my own servers. But the system was developed in a way that it can be scaled up into a decentralized cloud, and using a decentralized cloud such as Flux. For people who knows like the blockchain world, that actually is around 80% much lower the cost than the traditional cloud. So we're not thinking to use Google or AWS.
Got it. And then, based on your background, I know a lot of startups in this space have like a outsourced system architect. So I'm just curious, with regards to all of the software, hardware, do you design everything in-house, or do you have licensing or OEMs that you've partnered with?
No, all are, I mean, yeah, most of the hardware are in-house. There is one specific hardware, which is here. So here, this is a normal a product that from the market we just buy it from the Chinese manufacturer, and they put the specific Gaia firmware on it, and not the Google Alexa or not Chinese firmware on it. As for the marketing, so if the idea is to making it like a guerrilla marketing and to showcase, so a big portion of it would be at the beginning, at least, for the channel and maybe we hire someone to share these films or the channel content in the social media. But in a later step, I think, yeah, like most of the companies, we will have to outsource another part of the marketing.
Got it. And then just my last question, because I know you're still getting started, and you've mentioned you want to target, let's say, various projects, be it on like smart fertilizers and other, let's say, farming processes. Do you have any pilots or, let's say, projects lined up, or any, let's say, LOIs, MOUs signed up, and which, let's say, field of farming will you start with?
Yeah. Well, we tested it so far with my friends from Germany, also from here in Hungary. Also, you can see it on my background, probably the vertical wall, but not edible one. We do have like the 24 sign-ups for the public beta program, and they are waiting for the start. That means that they will need to buy the hardware at discounted prices. Else than that, there would be also some potential partners. I mentioned retails, hydroponic shops in Europe that I've been in contact with. Some competitors, which I call them competitors, but they are rather potential partners. Those who are selling all-inclusive greenhouse or container greenhouse, they can benefit because they are more focused on the hardware or making the container itself, and they are outsourcing the software-wise of the system. So we have like an intentions to partner with one of such company in order to provide. We can make it like as a white label service, and they can include Gaia as a system in their own product.
Okay, so you would do like
There
licensing
are
as well.
some potential partners along the side, along the road, and as well as a lab that they could do genetic testings, or they could do a specific microbe, environmental microbe testing. David probably know, I spoke with in the Silicon Valley conference where I met some of these potential partners.
Excellent.
Great.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dalal. And Janelle, thank you so much for your presentation. You can continue, if anyone wants to talk to him afterwards about that, we'll obviously have the networking afterwards, or you can ask any questions in the chat. So in the interest of time, we'll move on to our next startup this evening. So startup 3 is, we have The Good Wild. So innovative and upgraded products, fermented and sprouted pulses that respect the limited resources of planet Earth, while securing the need for increasing supplies of good and protein-rich food. This is being presented by Zeynep Yalcin, Brand Communication Manager. Found a little bit about Zeynep here. So she's a seasoned professional with extensive experience in the financial services industry. She has held positions at prominent institutions, including Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank. She holds a master's degree in finance from the University of Frankfurt, underscoring her strong academic foundation in the field. So over to you, Zeynep.
Hi, everyone. I think that was not me, but it's okay.
Oh, sorry, I was given that information.
Maybe it was mixed. So I'm here to present the pitch of the Good Wild. Usually it's one of our co-founders who presents, but she couldn't attend today, so I'm here to present for her. Yeah, as Sasha said, I am responsible of the brand management and communication. Good Wild is a food tech company. It's a brand that produces sprouted pulse products. It's a future food company with tasty plant-based products. So I'm going to start how the brand was founded. So our founders, they were focused on three main problems: hunger, scarcity, and health. In order to feed the world's population in 2050, we all talk about the fact that we have to increase the production by 70%. 83 of the agricultural land is spent on animal protein, which is only the 18% of the daily energy, so it's not enough. And health, we hear that there's a lot of increase in the cancer, and so we understand it's vital that we emergently have to change our food consumption habits. So what is the solution? So this brand was co-founded by Hussein and Dilara. Dilara, she's a well-known climate activist and nutritionist in Turkey. She also works for the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization. And she's always tells that we have to increase the consumption of plant-based proteins for our health and for the planet health. And Hussein, he's a food engineer, and he's the one who come with the ideas of the making sprouted products. He used to work for a big corporate company, and then he invented sprouted fermented products, which is world's first. And then they put together with Dilara their power, and they make a brand which makes easy to incorporate sprouted products into our diets. And they call this upgraded products because it's not superfood, it's what we already have. So we have the pulses, and then we make them upgraded. So why do we call it upgraded products? Because usually when we eat pulses, it's really hard to digest. We always say that the protein is not enough compared to animal protein. But actually, when you sprout the pulses, the phytic acid and the lectin goes away, so it's much easier to digest. And the researchers show that the digestion of the protein increases, the digestion of the vitamins increases. We also made some researches that shows that the antioxidant levels increases. So as I said, we have to integrate more the plant-based alternative in our daily life. But when we ask the consumers what is the problem of not integrating them, the first one is taste. Consumers actually struggle to find tasty plant-based alternatives. The other one is price. Usually the plant-based alternatives are pricier, 3 times pricier. And the nutritional quality, usually the nutritional value doesn't match for consumers. So what Good Wild offers is that it's a tasty alternative. It's an affordable alternative. It's a sustainable and eco-conscious alternative because with the pulses, actually it captures the carbon naturally in the soil, and it's a nutritious alternative. So we have different products. We actually we made a big R&D while finding the products, and we chose 32 SKUs out of more than 50 products. We have a group of sprouted pulses, dry ones, sprouted flowers, sprouted crunchy salad toppings. And actually, why do we dry them? Because usually when you make the sprouting process at home, of course you can make it, but it usually tends to spoil after 1 to 2 days, and it can be dangerous. So drying them it's a good way to to keep them. And those ones are actually the most profitable and the ones that we think about the exportations. Then we have the sprouted fermented pulses. Those ones are first in the world to increase the shelf life. We actually fermented the pulses, so it became also prebiotic, and the antioxidant levels in our researchers shows that it increases about 300%. Then we have sprouted snacks and granolas. In granolas, we use sprouted buckwheat, also in the snacks. And then we have soups, and we have a large family where we use sprouted pulses. So in more than 1 year, we grew a wild community. We are reaching nearly like 1.5 million people per month through Instagram, through our newsletters, via LinkedIn. We have gained 15 awards, so 2 is international and 13 awards in total. Up. So what have we done? So we have we built the factory in 2022 on the second part. In 2023, we did the R&D and ended up with 32 SKUs and launched the brand. In 2024, we have expanded the team and improved the process, production process. Then we received the first investment, the seed investment, which was 1.4 million euros. And now we are in the preparation for the second round. We were accepted for from a grant, EU grant. We have received our BRC certificate for the exportation. This was important for us. We entered in many shops, and now we are working on new products. And on the second part of 2025, we are planning to expand in Europe, starting by Germany, then the UK. So as I said, in our first year, we entered more than 100 physical stores, and now we are prioritizing to enter in the UK and then the Germany. So we received recognition from important international and national associations. We were the first brand from Turkey to enter in European Sprouted Seed Association. We were chosen as role model by the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey. As I said, we received the BRC certificate. It was in November, and we were accepted for the XL4 program, and it's going to be a process for 4 years, and we're going to make more researchers and develop more our products. So we can see that the
Right,
growth.
sorry, you're going to have to wrap up now because we've come to the end of your time slot. So
okay.
summarize anything quickly.
Okay. Then it was nearly the end. So we can see that the plant-based and the sprouting and the fermentation is what's we hear the most in the trends and the reports, and that's it. And if you have any questions, you can contact our co-founder, but you can also contact me, and that's it.
Right, great, thank you. Really fascinating. You've got a lot of interest from people in the audience here who in the UK, so it's a good thing you put that on your chart. Right, you're going to get some questions here, but obviously
I'll be able to answer them.
Your co-founders. So let's have a look. Michael, would you like to go first this time?
Yeah, thanks, Sasha. Great presentation, unique. That's very good. Very interesting products, actually. Quick question: where is it all produced in one manufacturing site?
Yeah, in Istanbul, one manufacturing site. We're all putting them in one place.
Great, and therefore, with your expansion plans to the UK and Germany, etc., are the fermented pulses and the soups shelf stable? What's the shelf life? Do they need refrigeration, or are they shelf stable?
So the fermented, they don't need to be refrigerated, but the soups, yes, for the moment. The shelf life of the fermented one is up to 2 years, so it's okay. But we are first planning to expand with the dry ones, then the fermented ones. And the soups we're working on them right now.
Very good. And what's the average margin, gross margin for all of your product range there on page 6? Just
Uh,
the margin range.
I'm not sure. I don't want to give a wrong number, as
Okay,
I said,
fine,
because
fine.
I'm not. But
Great, I'll pass it on to the next
Feel
panel.
free if
Thanks.
your co-founders in the audience, they can also answer questions because I know that one or two of them are with you. They can
Okay.
also unmute themselves and answer
Yeah,
very
it's
quickly.
really important because of your
so I actually okay. The co-founder wrote me. He wrote me that it's about 70%.
70% gross margin on
Yeah,
average. Very
yeah.
good.
What he
Very good.
wrote. Yeah.
That's
Thank
very
you.
good. Thanks.
Thank you, Sain. He's with us also. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Michael. On to Dalal.
Thank you, Zainab, for your presentation. I saw in the competitive landscape, you missed a very important company to compare yourself or benchmark yourself against, Daya's Food from Japan, which does germinated soybeans and have raised close to $100 million. So, you know, this is just to also commend you on what you're doing, that you're moving, you know, down the right path, and there are some huge gains ahead. So my first question is regards to your, let's say, intellectual property. Since Dias has a patented process, what stage are you at?
We also applied in all the patents in all across the world as I know, like in the USA, in Turkey, and right now also working for the EU. And also we are sprouting the pulses, and we are not sprouting any soybeans, so we pay attention to sprout the pulses from our country. And so it's different. And sprouted fermented pulses, they don't exist in the market. We made a large research, so it's different. So we have applied for the patent for the fermented ones.
Got it. And then with regards to the end product, so is this like a protein isolate, or is it like an unrefined flour? Like, how are you like selling it at the end?
So we have different products. For example, the crunchy ones, it can be like as salad toppers, the fermented ones as well. But the flours, it can be used as any kind of flour instead of, because the more time passes, the people avoid to use the white flour. So it can be a protein alternative. I don't know if I understood right the question.
No problem. Yeah, and just curious if it's like the isolate, because these are usually more expensive and more, let's say, precise, especially when selling to, let's say, licensing it to very big, let's say, commodity players. But it's okay. Just my last question, with regards to the functionality, especially if there's a functional food property. So, like for instance, Dias states that their products have much higher amino acid profiles, better digestibility. What are some of the claims that you have certified, you know, or have, let's say, approvals with your products?
The one that we have researched with TÜBİTAK, so the Turkish Scientific Research Association, is we have worked for the antioxidants and proved that it was 300% more, but the others are from the researches that were already made. The protein research was already made on other sprouted pulses, but now we are developing new researches with the fund that we got from the EU grants that I mentioned before.
Awesome. I have so many questions. I know we have to stick to the time.
I think you should maybe chat afterwards in the
Yeah, you can
network.
write me and I'll try to answer better by asking them.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Then on to David.
Yeah, I think I'll probably be quick. I think you did a great job highlighting the product, right? It was clear. Lots of questions from Dalal and Michael even on you know product, but it's compelling. It's different. I think what some of the feedback I'd give, and if you can provide some texture, that'd be helpful. But what was missing for me was really around financials, the go-to-market, the use of funds. And really on the financial side. Michael started, or I'm not sure who started, but this product categories. Do you have different sources of revenue by product categories, profitability? As you look to go to those different markets, it would be helpful to understand, are you going to do everything from your one manufacturing site within Europe? How you handle distribution? Will there be regulatory hurdles? A lot that I threw out there, but that just wasn't necessarily covered in the deck. And my coaching on the deck would be sort of watch your timing, which you felt a little bit, and I realize you're presenting somebody else's deck. But the other piece was get through the maybe condense some of the award slides. They're very commendable, but get to some of those other areas of go-to-market financials, et cetera. I don't know if you want to respond to any of that, but yeah.
We are working on the financial part right now for the second round, so we removed to not have the all datas. That's why you don't have them yet, because we're working on them. And yeah, as you said, I was presenting someone else's deck, so I tried my best, but thank you for your feedback. It's always something to...
Yeah, great. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
And then finally, Elif.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Zeynep, for the great pitch. I'm very happy to see you. My question is, how do you plan to scale while maintaining these products' integrity and cost efficiency? What's your balance plan?
Can you repeat again?
How do you plan to scale? What's your expansion plan? Because while you expand or increase your capacity, you will have problems about the cost and products. So how do you plan to balance all of these?
I think we will go little by little. So first we wanted to start from Germany, because our also lead investor is from Germany. So we'll start by Turkey, but then we'll expand also the manufacturing, I guess, in Germany, maybe then after in other countries, but I'm not sure. I don't want to answer something wrong as well.
So you mentioned step-by-step manufacturing.
Yeah, step by step.
Increasing in a rapid way. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Elif. And yeah, thank you, Zaina. I think, as you said, there's your co-founders in the audience. So maybe if anyone's got any questions that are more aimed at the co-founder, then perhaps you can direct them, and maybe we can signpost who the co-founder is in the audience. Obviously, hopefully, if they're going to stay on to the networking at the end, that you might be able to speak to them directly then. But maybe you can just let us know. Thank you. So on to our final startup pitching this evening. And that is, let me get the details up. We have.
Hello.
We've got so it's Am I Proteins pitching, and this is about develops novel proteins that answer the needs of consumers and industry. The first application is sweet protein inspired by nature and built with biology through a natural fermentation process. So presenting this evening is Ilan Samish, founder and CTO. A little bit about Ilan is pioneering the development of designer proteins to create healthier and sustainable sweeteners. He has a PhD in biochemistry from Tel Aviv University, extensive expertise in protein engineering and computational biology. Ilan's work has been recognized globally, earning him a spot on the World Economic Forum's list of technology pioneers. So over to you, Ilan.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I think I'll do something which is maybe less typical and opened with a short movie of saying what we actually do. And that is a white powder which makes people happy. And in order to make a white powder which makes people happy, at the end of the day, we make a protein, the first sweetener that can reduce 40 to 70% of added sugar without compromising on health, taste, cost, and sustainability. So let me just check that I have, okay.
Yeah, make sure you press the advanced or check the box that says share sound when you're doing the sharing. There's a box towards the bottom often.
Towards the bottom. You hear the sound or not?
We consume a lot of sugar.
Can you hear the sound?
Yeah, we can, yeah. Nice.
Okay. Let's do it full screen.
We consume a lot of sugar, which is not good for our health. And it's not great for our little blue planet either. Introducing Squealing, a new hypersweet protein that is calorie-free and reduces a significant amount of the added sugar without compromising the delicious sweet taste we love. How do we make it? We are inspired by nature. Serendipity berries found in the jungles contain monolin, a super sweet protein that, unfortunately, is scarce, expensive, and unstable to heat during food processing. Monolin, like any protein, is a necklace of pearls on a string. These pearls are called amino acids, and their arrangement gives a protein its properties. At Amai, we found how to best arrange these pearls to make a protein that is hyper sweet and super stable. Then we combine this cutting-edge technology with thousands of years of brewing experience. Just like brewing beer, we use friendly yeast to brew our squealing protein. We teach the yeast how to make the squealing protein so it can produce the squealing protein we want. The hard-working yeast does its magic in the brewery. Once the yeast is done with the fermentation job, we filter the protein out of the fermenter and turn it into a pure white protein powder that is ready to significantly reduce sugar in food and beverages. This means you can love your food again.
Okay, so that was just a short introduction. And just remind me, how many minutes do I have?
7 minutes. Yeah, 5, but 5 is better because then you can just share the video. So 5 would be great. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So I'll try to do something which is very, very short. And here it goes. So Amai is sweet in Japanese, and what we make is great tasting designer proteins. We all love sugar, but sugar is toxic, and actually today sugar is known to be worse than tobacco. It's not the new tobacco, but worth within the $90 billion sweetener market. 90% is just one product, sugar, because the rest just don't work. And in parallel, we have a growing diabetes and metabolic syndrome, and today 150 countries already have tax against sugar. What we do is we apply the ProQ platform, which begins with AI-CPD, computational protein design, where we design proteins which are extremophiles, proteins which are similar to the ones that live in harsh conditions, such as the Dead Sea, hot springs, deep in the ocean, acidic swamps, or our stomach, and thus are much more adapted to the mass food market. We then produce them using yeast in our protein brewery, and then we apply them to food technology using our ProTaste food technology. So at the end of the day, the bottom line is that in the wild, there are hypersweet proteins such as monolin. They grow in the jungles in protein heaven, and they are not fit to the hell environment of the mass food market. But there is life in hell. There is life in the Dead Sea and hot springs and so on. So what we do is we bridge this gap and we produce squalene, which is the first general use sweetener which can reduce 40 to 70% of the sugar without compromising taste. Just in October, the field of computational protein design got a Nobel Prize. I published in 2017 what became the #1 book in the field. And after 18 years in academia, I decided to leave and open Amai because I think I can make an impact. I'm actually sure I can make an impact on the world's biggest health problem, which is sugar overconsumption. So just to show you as an example, here we have one piece of the protein. In blue is what is found in the wild. In light color is what was done many years ago. In red is what we did, which is just one piece of the protein, which is much more stable and also has a better taste and better shelf life. Then we grow it in our protein brewery. At Amai, we have 100 liter. We go to much, much larger volumes. We are now producing in Bangalore. I'm right now in Brazil to establish production capacity in Brazil, and we are also looking to establish production capacity in Abu Dhabi. And then our food technology team and our super taster panel, we have 20 super tasters, taste what we do, taste after shelf life, after we torture the protein to death, taste the synergies between our swilling and other sweeteners and other food ingredients. And also we work in different applications. In this picture, for example, you see cranberry juice, which we did together with Ocean Spray. So far, we got about $1 million just from collaborations with the world's leading food and beverage companies. Now, in the wild, you have sweet proteins, and they are good for you because proteins are good for you. However, they are not fit to the mass food market. They have a suboptimal sweetness profile. They have a very high cost and a low stability. And what we do, and here I'll skip because this is a slide I can talk on for a long time, we do significant sugar reduction. We did some studies with some EU funding with PepsiCo, Danone, and some other companies in the EU. We have amazing consumer acceptance, very high sustainability, and no calories because on average we are 3,000 times sweeter than sugar, which means we need a minuscule amount, and this allows us to be cheaper than sugar in sweetness units. Now, within all the other categories of sugar reduction, above 30% sugar reduction, which is what is needed for sugar reduction labeling, they just don't tick all the check boxes of taste, cost, health, stability, not to mention the full sustainability and sensory profile. The only one that does is our protein. We are fit to numerous applications. These are all pictures taken at Amai. We have done from energy bars to chewing gum to beverages to ice cream to ketchup. And I have here some samples I'll show you in a minute. On each such thing, we have a blind study showing between the full sugar and us. And the ketchup is an example where we do 70% sugar reduction. Most people will not notice that it's not a full sugar. We don't compete with sweeteners. We compete with sugar. So as to route to market, we want to sell directly to the very big companies. We want to work with the integrators, the blend, the different powders, to work with flavor houses. We already received self-affirmed GRAS and FEMA GRAS regulatory approvals, a Flavor Extract Manufacturing Association, and we may do some B2C demonstrations just to shake the industry. We already received 2 out of 3 regulatory approvals in the United States. We finished all the work for the FDA. We expect to get it in 2025. We also expect to get in the next 2 quarters approvals in Singapore and Israel. We began the work with Brazil and then moving to the rest of the world. We have a dozen different patents and different applications. We studied carefully the field of stevia. As a B2C branded B2B product, we also have a B2C website, which is swilling.com, including the movie I just showed you. There's also a movie done on us by the BBC. We can call ourselves, and we have for that a leading labeling legal company. We can call ourselves Serendipity Berry Sweet Protein, or Manolin, which is the name of the protein, or calorie-free. We are not artificial. We are 100% protein. We are also very good in sustainability. As sugar, every kilogram requires 200 liters of water. As sugar is grown in a land bigger than the UK, there is 180 million tons of sugar produced, huge transportation related carbon footprint, use of pesticides, herbicides, contamination of air, land, and sea, also because of waste management. We have won numerous awards. Maybe the top one is Extreme Tech Challenge. Out of 2,000 startups, we first won in Germany, then we won in the United States a category of the ag tech, and then we became the global winner. This had very deep due diligence where we had 4 criteria: team, market disruption, fitness to market, and above all, the 17 UN SDGs. We have an amazing team that I don't have now time to go over, but all leaders, international leaders in the field. We have amazing investors, including Sukden, which is the world's biggest sugar trader, owns 10% of the company, the Singaporean government, the biggest sugar prince of Southeast Asia, and some VCs and strategics from around the world. I won't talk now on the different aspects of the competition. I'll just say we are now raising $100 million, and with that, we will become break even. We need the production capacity. The big companies told us we need to produce in 2 different countries, and we are looking into establishing that in Brazil and in the UAE. We are also in need for the global patents, which cost quite a bit. We did the world's first regulatory related work on labeling and on global regulation, and we did the world's first clinical trial, double-blind random clinical trial showing that our protein has no effect on blood sugar and insulin levels. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you so much. Very interesting and amazing what you've achieved so far. Right, let's have a start with Michael this time, please.
Hi, Ellen. Great
Michael.
presentation. Actually, it's an area that I'm heavily involved in with my venture studio with a number of projects. So maybe we'll take this offline a bit later. First question, the one that stood out for me, others may have picked it up. If it's a protein and and it's so much more efficient delivering sweetness, I guess there's a lot of cereals out there and a lot of packaged food brands that will be replacing their carbohydrate mix and actually having more protein in their food makeup. So have you thought about that, how you compensate or how you advise to compensate from a reduction in carbohydrate sugar to add on the protein side that delivers the sweetness and the protein to get you back to 40-40-20?
So actually, we don't contribute too much to the protein content.
Okay.
Because we replace a teaspoon of sugar with 1 or 2 milligrams of the protein. I can show you here our ketchup, and the ketchup is 70% less added sugar. Here we do need to compensate for something else, because when we remove so much sugar, we get liquid ketchup. So we either need to put a dietary fiber or we need to put a stabilizer like santan. So that's one example. And another example of a formulation, this peanut butter, the peanut butter, when we reduced 50% of the sugar, we had a peanut butter which was too salty. So we had to remove 40% of the salt, and then it was too fatty. So we had to remove 50% of the added fat. So in every product, you have synergy and interactions between the different components. And indeed, we need to do a reformulation. Here you have some of the iced tea, and we have many beverages. Ice cream is one of our amazing things, but for that, we have a food technology team that helps in doing that. We are only a sweetener. We are not a bulking agent. We are not a texture agent. And with the first variant that is going to the market, we are also not fit for bakery. We have a market of only $25 billion out of a market of 80-something billion dollars. We are fit to around 2/3, and we can do an average, let's say 50% sugar reduction, in many cases much more. So we cannot solve it all.
Okay, and as a food ingredient brand, which I presume you're classing yourself as, is it your responsibility to solve the cause and effect, or to have an advisory team to help the likes of McDonald's or so for every product that or PepsiCo or Nestle that you've mentioned? So what's your position on that as a team? It's a critical one for me. So.
We have already received some $1 million just from joint development agreements and material transfer agreements. And some companies prefer that we will just give them some white powder and they will play with it as they see fit. And other companies want us to do a joint development agreement from chocolate to other things. We have a big package of information about the do's and don'ts and what helps and what doesn't that we know. And of course, it's our interest to help companies to make the best usage of our white powder. So we are really helping. Sometimes we get a mock formulation, or cranberry juice, for example, with no sugar without even knowing what's there, or we get a recipe which is similar, and we provide some recipes. So we try very much to help our customers to get the best product out there.
Brilliant. Great. Thank you, Ilan. I'll pass it over. Thank you.
Great.
Well done.
Thank you, Michael. Dalal, your turn next.
Absolutely. Hi, Ilan. Nice to meet you. I've heard so much about Amai Proteins, especially like when I was back in Singapore in 2020. So it's great to see all of your achievements, the FDA approvals, and also hopefully launching in that market.
Thank you.
Okay.
By the way, next week on Sunday, I'll be in Dubai, and Sunday through Friday, I'll be in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Happy to meet with anyone interested.
Awesome. So yeah, a couple of questions, because I know that Brazil is moving pretty fast on the market. I know that you claimed that with your sweetener, it's 1,000 times more sweetener. I think 3,000 times more sweeter, and Brazil is 2,000. But I'm just very curious with regards to the price point, comparing your protein and Brazil, and then with regards to the setup of the operations to produce it, because both are doing precision fermentation. So how would it compare in terms of the let's say like producing the product and the final end price?
So today you have like 6 different companies that I know of that are making Brazil, and so many compared us to Brazil, and I looked to buy some Brazil and compare us, and I couldn't. So at the end, we said, let's do it ourselves, and I was shocked how quickly we did Brazil in very large amounts. I mean, yeast loves to make Brazil. So we made our own Brazil, and then we compared it. And I have on that a slide. It will take a minute to put it out, but the bottom line is that Brazil is an FMP. It's a flavor modifying property protein. It's good up to 2%. In some very rare cases, maybe 3% sugar perception. In 5 or 6%, I mean, the potency drops to about 500 if you put no acid. So we compared, for example, just in liquid with no acid in 5 Brix, equivalent Brix is percent sugar, and Brazil was 500. We were 5,000 times sweeter than sugar. So beyond the fact we are 10 times sweeter than sugar, the taste profile of Brazil is simply terrible. You cannot use it above 2%, and in some rare cases, maybe 3%, that it just doesn't taste good. So we are, number one, much more potent, actually, in the threshold level, in the level that is equivalent to 0.5% sugar, which is when you begin to taste the sweetness. We are about 10,000 times sweeter than sugar. So potency here depends really on how much you sweeten and also on the different environments. So we are significantly more potent, which also means we are significantly cheaper, and our taste profile is very clean. You cannot do with Brazil what we do, for example, in this ketchup, which is give 9% of sugar equivalent. You just with Brazil, the taste is terrible. I tasted some chocolate with Brazil, and then I found out that not all the sweetening was Brazil, but the taste was nothing similar to this chocolate. And by the way, in this chocolate, we do 2/3 of the sweetening, and the rest is split also as a bulking agent between low-intensity sweeteners, maltitol and mannitol, and erythritol. So we don't see any comparison to Brazil. As to production, yes, both Brazil and us are produced using yeast. And one of the risk factors is some of the very big companies, some of the most known brands in the world told us they're interested, but in order to buy from us, number one, we must have production capacity in at least 2 different countries. And 2, they must be sure that also 5 years away, we will have enough production capacity. There is now, I think in 3 years, there will be an issue of production capacity. We now in India, they are very happy a year in advance to build more production capacity for us, but we are looking to do that in 3 different countries, and it's definitely something we are treating as a very central issue in conquering the world.
So, no, thanks for sharing.
Right. Thank you for your question, Dalal. Now on to David.
Yes, I'm very somewhat familiar with the company, and really applaud you for the addressing the sugar issue that we have globally. The area that I've been looking at is more on the stevia, which, as you know, is a bad taste profile. And I was interested in the bulking agent question that Michael asked. I think my question is really around you've commented about the production capacity. To what extent will you require those regulatory approvals, and are there any concerns around those? You know, global food companies want global options, and they don't want regional options. And can you spend a little bit more time on that regulatory pathway and any concerns that you have, or how you're addressing those concerns?
Yeah, okay. So stevia, again, depending on the potency and exact food matrix, is about 10 to 12 times less potent than us. And in stevia, you have a market of stevia from agriculture, from enzymatic conversion, with taking from the agriculture and converting it from Reb A to Reb M. And you have also production by microbial precision fermentation. We have actually very good synergy with stevia, and in some of the products we put 5% of the sweetening is stevia or less, and then it's good, but in high amounts, stevia does not taste good. As to the regulatory, we are working with several agencies, and here in Brazil, we just began with the agency actually that brought stevia into Brazil. Definitely, we began with Singapore and with the United States, because these are the two flagships, one for the Western world, one for the Asia Pacific region. And from these two countries, and with SFA, something that is interesting, SFA is a Singaporean food authority, they told us that we are fit to both the definitions of food additive and novel food, which is very important. It's a technical issue, but in the EU, for example, food additive has an A number, novel food does not, and there are ways also to do a combination between us and a dietary fiber, or two different proteins versions to be novel food and not a food additive. There are also some international accreditations, such as JECFA for additives in the FEMA level, in the FMP level, so is a food flavor modifying property level. This is usually below 1.5% sugar perception. So we already received from FEMA, Flavor and Extract Manufacturing Association, we received from them the regulatory approval. And we can sell in many countries because we have the FEMA approval, but this is only in small amounts. In larger amounts, right now we have the self-affirmed GRAS approval. So, for example, Nestle will wait for the FDA, but Nestle Dietary Supplements, which is a subsidiary fully owned by Nestle, for them the self-affirmed GRAS is good enough. In the upcoming year, we do expect to get Israel, Singapore, and FDA. And in the next year, we expect to get many additional countries. We have a very detailed written memo, and as you said, it's a pretty complex issue of what country relies on what country and what organization. And actually, our go-to-market territorial strategy is largely based on the regulatory path. Unfortunately, the EU is going to be not the first one, but only after FDA and others. We did not begin with them because if they have questions, they can actually stop other approvals in other countries. So definitely it's a topic we can talk on for hours.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, Elif.
Thank you. Thank you for the pitch. My question is only one, and I wonder if the product taste changes in different pH ranges. For example, for dairy, for beverages, is there specific taste changes, or is it all the same in any product? I wonder this.
So I'll answer a broader question. So we are totally fit for all pHs with no change in the taste, whether it is cola pH 2.8 or things which are more neutral pH of 7. This is a range of food. Most food is actually acidic. We are fit to all of them. However, we do have in different products different potencies. In dairy, the potency is lower than in beverages, and also there are some preservatives or others that may change the potency. So there is, number one, a change of potency depending on the food or beverage matrix. And the average is 3,000. In some cases, we are 5,000. In some cases, we're always well above 1,000. But it also depends on the level of sugar reduction, because sugar has a linear dose response, meaning if you move from 1% to 2%, or you move from 11% to 12%, it's always 1%, and one breaks, which is a unit of sweetness. However, in all other sweeteners, you have a non-linear dose response, and at some level for every unit of sweetness, you need to add much more. And then what we get is, above all, a lingering taste, only in very high amounts. And in very, very high amounts, you can add a little bit of other tastes. But that's why we made a strategic decision not to do sugar elimination. We learned from stevia. Stevia, actually above 25%, you get some terrible taste. And to do something which is much more modest concerning, and that's sugar reduction rather than sugar elimination. 40 to 70, or I have here some spread, which is 80% sugar reduction. Now, there is now for 4 years a sugar reduction summit. I've been the co-chair of the last one. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. There's a city of Coca-Cola. And I went there together, and I selected as my co-chair Professor Robert Lustig. If you really want to hear all the bad things about sugar, Professor Robert Lustig is the #1 sugar warrior in the world. And he has some YouTube lectures that got over 15 million viewers. And everyone now understands that sugar is not good for you, but that sugar elimination just doesn't work. And that's why there is a very big trend to move towards sugar reduction, to get rid of all of the bad labeling and the sugar taxation. And that's where our sweet spot is, forgive me the pun.
Great. Thank you so much. Right. I think we're going to have to wrap up now in the interest of time, because we want to get on to the networking. I think we're just going to do a quick wrap up, and then Jamal will put us into the breakout groups for anyone who's going to stay on for the networking, which hopefully is a lot of you. And hopefully all the panelists and the startups can stay on as well. But thank you to all the startups who've pitched with us today. Let me just get this up. So just to recap, first of all, we had first startup was Miles Comfort Foods, presented by Miles Power, founder and CEO, raising $800,000 on a convertible note. It's got $150,000 remaining, $4.5 million cap, 25% discount and 5% interest rate. Our second startup was Gaia.ai, presented by Janelle Abdi, founder and CTO. Deal summary, raising $350,000 in exchange for equity and or SAFE, valuation cap of 2 million, 18 to 20 months runway. Our third presenter was The Good Wild, presented by Zeynep Yalasin, brand and communications manager. As I said, I believe the co-founders are still in the audience, so if anyone's got questions for them, hopefully you can talk to them during the networking in a minute. Deal summary, currently in their second round of investment and preparing for their this round, but the deal terms have not been finalized yet, but I'm sure they might reveal some things if you ask them. And then finally, our fourth one who just presented was Ami Proteins by Ilan Samish, raising about $100 million in their current investment round. So just contact Ilan directly if you've got any questions about that. So before we finished, yes, come and stay for the networking. Jamal, do you want to say a few things as well before we move on? I will just, actually, before I pass on to you, just thank all the panelists for their time this evening and their commitment to supporting startups. Thank you to all of you who've viewed us this evening, both on live stream, because we were live streaming this evening, as well as to our Zoom guests. So yeah, big thank you to the panelists. So Dr. Dalal, David, Dr. Elif and Michael, as well as our supportive strategic partner, Elena. She was in the audience earlier. I'm not sure if she still is, but hopefully. Make sure you follow their respective companies. So SWAPAC, 3Bar Biologics, R Ventures, and RSVP Business Angel.
And also Arcman Capital. So yeah, Arcman Capital, I missed in that script. So
Okay, never mind. We'd also like to thank our supporting companies, Mirage.ai and Pagoda Projects, for supporting with branding, marketing, and interns. And a special thank you to Jamal, obviously, for producing this event this evening and putting everything together. Jamal, just a few words to you, and then I think you're going to put everyone into breakout groups.
Yeah, not long for me. I just want to big thanks to Sasha, because she puts so much actually free time into being a food and beverage community builder in the UAE now where she is, but also globally through the online events that we run. And we run anything from 2 to 3 events per month. So it's quite an undertaking. We were about 1 week off maybe per month. And so thanks, Sasha. Really appreciate it since you've offered to do this, and we've worked together since now the last 4 years. Yeah, we'll continue to promote the pitching startups that were part of today's event. So we will do by the end of next week, we will do a big highlights document and share that out. In that post, we'll also include the recording link as well. So anyone that joined the event late, you might want to see who pitched at the beginning of the event, or any of the presenters or panelists might want to watch back a bit of exchanges. Anyone who needs help maybe connecting with people that you met on the call and you lose track of their details in the chat, reach out to me. Happy to make an introduction, particularly if I'm connected with them as a first connection on LinkedIn. That's fine. We're not taking any finder fees or anything like that. Yeah, we do we've got a few other things that I think Tasha's going to cover in a minute, but we also are open to having new investor panelists and funds involved in our events. So if you're interested, there's a panelist application part of the website. And if you're a startup or founder in the audience, anywhere within the food sector between pre-seed, Series C and above, in this wider space, we run a number of events that are geographically focused. So for instance, US focused, Middle Eastern focused, or this event is actually a global event. And we also run other events that are more focused in terms of segment. So the drinks focused events we run, the food science and food tech B2B events we run, and the ag tech events we run, and the CPG food events we run are all more specializing than actually today's event, which is our kind of general event we do every 3 months. So really, really fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And if you are a founder in the audience who wants to reach out, either be involved in our feedback events that we organize, this was not a feedback event, it was the demo style, or this style of event, then you can submit your deck by our website, pitchlounge.net/startups, or just email us and reach out on LinkedIn. Back to Sasha. She's going to cover a few of the events we have coming up, particularly the ones in Dubai. Sasha.
Yes, we do have some in-person ones in Dubai. So actually the next one coming up is another online event. This is a drink specialist one, Drinkpreneurs Collective, happening next Thursday, the 13th of February, 5 p.m. UK start time. So it's similar time to this one. And then after that, we've got the ones I'm very excited about because these are in Dubai. So we have our Foodpreneurs Collective breakfast networking event, which will be at Maktabi co-working space, which is basically in the building next to Dubai World Trade Center, because this is obviously the week of Gulf food. So that'll be on Tuesday, the 18th of February, 8 to 10 a.m. Gulf Standard Time, so Dubai time. And then the same week on the Thursday, the 20th of February, in the evening, we have similar to this event this evening, but it's a MENA focused one. We have Food and Beverage Pitch Lounge. This will be in person, and I believe we're going to be live streaming that one as well, like we did this evening. That will be running from 6:30 to 9:30 in the same location. So this Maktabi co-working space, as I said, the building right next to Dubai World Trade Center. So you can just walk after you finish Gulf food to our event, and we will have refreshments and everything there as well. And so just a couple of people to thank in connection with those events. We have our ongoing support for our events, particularly here in Dubai, from Homegrown Ventures, so one of our VCs that we work with here. And also thanks to Maktabi for their kindness in hosting us in Gulf Food Week at their co-working space.
Yeah,
so I think you've just got final things, and then you'll put us into groups.
Yeah, we're about to open the groups now. And yeah, if you, I think that's pretty much it. We're about to open the breakout rooms. The way that it works, we're going to have 4 rooms. Each of the rooms is linked for each dedicated startups. Usually, at least half the panel stay on for the breakout rooms. Hope they can stay on. I know all the founders are still with us. And you've all got a room each. So room 1, Miles from Miles Comfort Foods. Room 2, Junel Abdi from Gaia AI. Room 3, Zainab Yalcin from The Good Wild. And room 4, Ilan Samish from MI Proteins. You'll find it, depending on which kind of interface you're working on, you'll find the breakout rooms button on your navigation bar, and click that, and you can manually choose which room you go to. Okay, if you get lost, just call out to one of us who will stay in the general room, and we can assign you to a room. But I'm now going to open those rooms, and they should stay open to at least the next 25-30 minutes, even a bit longer if people are really interacting and enjoying their time, getting to know each other and following up. Thanks, everyone. Really enjoy the event.